Good morning, my name is Pete Garfield. I have the privilege of representing 58 of the most innovative and dynamic companies in the world as the CEO of the Information Technology Industry Council. We are partnering in this event with quite a number of folks, and it speaks to the excitement and energy around intelligent transportation. And so the Information Technology and Innovation Foundation, ITIF, the Intelligent Transportation Society of America. You're like, you got it right. Don't worry, I will. The Digital Energy Solutions and Digital Energy Sustainability and Solutions Campaign. Yes. And the Center for Clean Energy Innovation, which Matthew Stepp is the executive director of, or co-sponsor of this. So we have two panels this morning. Overall, our goal is to wow you with the wonders of intelligent transportation, which are quite wowing. I'll make up my own word. And as well, to talk about the policy framework that's necessary to ensure that wonder becomes a reality and not simply a potential. For those of you who watch sports, today is the NFL draft, so we don't want it to be the Ryan Leaf of innovation. We want it to be pick your quarterback of choice that's better than us. And so with that, I'm going to enough sports for today. Let's talk about intelligent transportation. I'll turn it over to Matthew. We'll get rolling with the first panel. We're probably not going to take a break. We're going to roll right into the second panel because there's a lot that we want to cover. And so thanks again for being here. Enjoy. Matt.
Thanks, Steve. And I have it relatively easy because we left no room for discussion. The title of the panel really captures the narrative: connected cars or cleaner cars. There's no question about it. It is what it is. But really the point of the panel, and at least from my perspective, is that to the average person, it's not necessarily intuitive. How does information technology reduce carbon emissions or lower gasoline consumption or reduce air pollution from vehicles? It's just not necessarily intuitive, but for someone like me who lives in a big traffic congested city, or whose day job it is to come up with solutions for solving global climate change, these type of things are of the utmost importance. Just to throw out some numbers for context, the transportation sector alone accounts for 1/3 of all carbon monoxide emissions, 1/3 of all smog-producing nitrogen oxide emissions, and represents 20% of global carbon emissions. And when you start thinking of places like China that by 2050 are going to add 500 million vehicles to the road, things like innovation in vehicle technology become really, really important. So like electricity meters, mobile phones, healthcare industry, I think the IT technologies are really gearing up to make sure that the transportation sector smarter. When I look at the panel, what I find interesting is that a lot of the folks, the core companies, aren't necessarily in vehicles. They're in IT, so I think it speaks to how new this industry really is and how new these technologies really are. In 2013, ITIF identified 4 technology trends that I think are really important to this discussion. First, an increase in machine-to-machine communications, where vehicles on the road are connected to each other as well as the surrounding infrastructure. Second, the deployment of more and more vehicle infotainment systems in the dashboard of vehicles to access things like traffic, safety, and GPS data. Third, the increase in the collection and use of vehicle data for a myriad of functions like accident alerts and vehicle maintenance announcements. And fourth, the growing trend towards vehicle automation, which is most famously made by Google's self-driving car. And I think it's these 4 technology trends that are really driving a lot of what we see in the intelligent transportation sector. And we have a really high-level, great panel of folks here to give their perspective on some of the cool technologies and the benefits that these technologies promise. So I'm just going to give a very brief introduction for everybody so you can dive in. We have a hard stop at around 10:10, so we're going to go for about 40 minutes or so, and then we'll have a discussion. To my left is Harry Lightsey. He's the Executive Director of Global Connected Consumer and Global Government Relations at GM, which he started in April 2013. And Harry joined GM in March of 2012 as Director of Federal Affairs for OnStar Infotainment and Strategy Development. and his career in the telecom industry spanned over 26 years, including holding a variety of positions in external affairs and legal organizations at Bell South. To Harry's left is Jason Harrison, is the Director of Emerging Enterprises and Partnerships at AT&T, where he leads several key initiatives related to AT&T's automotive business, including product definition, relationship management, and business development. Jason first joined in 2006 to build a program for the first iPhone launch. And I think his schooling, what I find interesting, he's kind of a jack of all trades. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Cell Molecular Biology from Texas Tech and an MBA from J. Mac Robinson College at Georgia State University. So interesting to hear where he's coming from. To Jason's left is Eric Berkebin. He's the Vice President of Engineering for Verizon Telematics and has been with the company since 2005. He has software and hardware engineering, manufacturing responsibilities. He also helped play an integral role in Verizon Telematics' 2006 acquisition of Network Fleet, which at the time was a leading provider of wireless fleet management services. Prior to joining Verizon, Eric was president of the Electronic Systems Products Incorporated, an Atlanta-based company he co-founded in 1989, which had core competencies in telecommunication systems and commercial and consumer electronics. And he had a very long list of clients, including AT&T, HP, Liberty Media, and TV Guide. And last but not least is Leo McCloskey. He's the Senior Vice President of Technical Programs at ITS America, where he does work and research on standards and other technology-driven initiatives. Prior to joining ITS, Leo was Vice President of Marketing for Air Acuity, a leader in connected vehicle service delivery for major automakers like Ford, Nissan, and GM. And at Air Acuity, Leo directed the organization's work in driver distraction and ecosystem development. And he's also had a very long career in IT and networking and technology companies for many, many years. So to get right into it, each panelist has the kind of basic ground rules. Each panelist has 8 to 10 minutes, and then we're going to have enough time for discussion. Hopefully, be able to take a couple of questions from the audience. So we're going to start right down the line. Harry, lead off.
Thank you. So as Matt mentioned, my career started in telecom in 1983, and a lot of where we are right now in the automobile industry reminds me of where we were in 1983 in the telecom industry. So I think it's very safe to say we're at the beginning of the beginning. In the automobile industry, we've had 100 years to work on the internal combustion engine, and we've made a lot of progress in that. But today, for the first time in 100 years, we're looking at powering vehicles by batteries, by hydrogen fuel cells, and by both compressed natural gas and liquid natural gas. So we have an abundance of new technologies and cleaner technologies that are coming into fruition. And how we develop those technologies is going to say a lot about the next 25 years in the automobile industry. I think one thing I know for sure is that sitting here today, none of these panelists, I don't believe, will be able to tell you with any certainty what's going to happen in the next 25 years. I don't think we can even begin to imagine what the next 25 years will bring. But I do know that part of the equation is creating a customer pull for these technologies. And in today's world, a lot of customer pull is created by the type of information technologies that we're able to put into the automobiles. Just to kind of start out and run very quickly through several topics on the subject of why connected cars are cleaner cars, and it can start with just the mundane basics, but the navigation systems that are in cars and available today allow for real-time traffic information to be given to the driver so that they can avoid congestion. They can be rerouted. This is a much more efficient system. And so that's pretty mundane, but that's where it all starts. And you can't overlook the benefits that we're already getting from those kind of changes. We've had several years now with the Volt, which is GM's premier EV vehicle that's in the market. And one of the kind of unique things about the Volt is that in addition to being battery driven for a certain range, it has a 9-gallon gasoline powered generator that charges the battery if the battery runs out of charge. And so we're able to track the amount of time that drivers spend on the Volt on pure EV miles versus when they tap into the gasoline-powered engine. And we're able to do a lot of different things with that are kind of interesting. So we've started social networking with the drivers of the Volt. We're able to track their own EV miles. They're able to compare how they're doing versus their friends and compete using the web. That's kind of an interesting thing for today's technology. They're able to specify when they charge their battery what types of percentages they want of renewables to be utilized in the charging of the battery. And all those are IT-based technologies. There are other things we're on the verge of doing just that affect, that aren't really specific drivetrain or powertrain specific. But if you look at the ability to inform people, owners of automobiles, when their car needs servicing, and keeping those cars on the road at peak efficiency, and has tremendous benefits in terms of energy efficiency as well. Eventually, we will be letting drivers know ahead of time when their car, when they need to take their car in and get it serviced before a problem is even apparent to them. So, those kind of things are utilizing the IT technologies to make cars more efficient. We have are kind of the very beginning of many of the OEMs are beginning to, and we all know that even today with internal combustion engine cars, they're very IT intensive. They have literally hundreds of computers in them that are performing various functions, millions and hundreds of millions of lines of code. Keeping all of that working and up to date is a chore. And a lot of times dealerships are becoming like computer service shops. But one of the things we're working on is the ability to update the software and modules over the air across the entire car park at the same time. You think about it even today, when we recall cars for one reason or another, we are dependent on people bringing their cars into the repair shops and to the dealerships to have those things happen. If we are able to do that across the entire fleet at one time, and with 100%, the ability to reach 100%, that has incredible promise for the efficiency of these cars. As we go to EVs, and EVs integrate with the smart grid, we're going to see tremendous benefits there, not only just in the cars, but just the use of the grid. A lot of these cars are charged at nighttime when they're in the garage. That kind of off-peak usage is music to power companies' ears. It's much more efficient for their grids. They're able to interface with the vehicles, predict demand very efficiently through IT technologies. So that is good for them. And ultimately, if you think about all these cars driving around, EV cars, these batteries store tremendous amounts of energy. And ultimately, plugging those batteries into the grid, making use of that stored energy at times when there's demand for it, creates creates much more efficiency in the whole system. And you begin to look a little bit further out. We have, an increasingly urban society. This is a global trend as well as in the United States. But we're starting to look at the promise of deploying technologies like vehicle-to-vehicle communications or vehicle infrastructure communications. So cars are letting each other know where they are. Beyond just the safety aspects of being able to prevent accidents, it also allows for much better use of the transportation infrastructure, if you will, and reduction of congestion, reduction of inefficient use of the cars. The ability to utilize information technologies in conjunction with mass transit offers a lot of promise. We're doing trials today, and other OEMs are doing trials in terms of people being able to interface with mass transit to know how to use the system, when the next train is coming, when the next bus is coming, what's the best way for them to get to where they want to go. Ride sharing is another trend that we see that's incredibly important looking forward. Today's young folks aren't necessarily that interested in car ownership. People of my generation, when I was in high school, it was all about kind of who was driving the cool cars around. Today's young folks look at cars as just a way to get from point A to point B. They're much more interested, frankly, in the technology that's in the vehicles. My daughter went and looked at a Tesla, which is a $100,000 premium EV vehicle, and she called me up and she said, I'm at the mall and I'm looking at this really cool car. And I said, well, tell me what do you think is cool about it? She said, it's got this 17-inch screen right in the middle of it, and I can get on the internet and do whatever I want. And that is an incredibly important thing to the consumer of tomorrow. So, I think the ability to utilize those technologies allow the customers to be part of their digital world while they're in their vehicle is incredibly important, and it'll pull a lot of these other technologies that we're talking about along with it. So that's a quick run through that. Thank you.
Good morning. So I'll key on some things that Harry said, and I'll also go into a little bit different area as well. So AT&T's been connecting vehicles for quite some time, and that's been through basic 2G and 3G connectivity, so kind of a small bandwidth pipe to the vehicle. This year we are launching, we're in the middle of launching the first 4G LTE enabled vehicles on the road with a few of our partners. And in AT&T's mind, connected cars, it's more than just a bigger pipe, right? There's all kinds of new services that can be delivered now to the vehicle, data that can be pushed and pulled from the vehicle, like video, etc. So there are, and I think it's important as we talk about how does connectivity relate to green, etc. I think it's important to realize the ripple effect that this has on industry as a whole, and the economy, and development and emerging new technologies as well. So, Matt mentioned that I brought the first iPhone to bear with AT&T. We never understood quite what that device would do. With the development of the App Shop, right, there were just these ripples and ripples and ripples throughout every facet of society, and unintended benefits that we could never imagine. And so I think this is yet another example of what will probably happen in the vehicle space as we deliver more technology to the vehicle. So just briefly, some of the things that we are looking to deliver to the vehicle and also how we are going to bring together AT&T's core competencies for benefits for both our auto partners and end consumers. We're going to bring all of AT&T's resources and divisions together to create this ecosystem. So just keying on a few of them, we are developing a Drive platform. It's called the Drive platform. It's an automotive platform that our partners can take pieces of for a variety of services in the vehicle. We also have our Digital Life platform, home automation and security. I'll explain a little bit about how that relates to connected vehicles in a minute. We have a tremendous force in healthcare and vertical segments, so we have healthcare platforms and wearable devices that connect to those platforms that we can also bring into the vehicle and enrich the experience there, both inside and outside the vehicle, but still, connected to the vehicle, things like watches, etc. Video platforms, obviously with our Uverse and other video platforms that we have. So not only for entertainment, purposes in the back seat, but you could envision things like video tutorials in the vehicle, maintenance manuals, and also security. This year, actually, GM announced that they're going to have a front camera on the Corvette, so that drive enthusiasts can measure how they're driving, right, and on the track. And so that's just the surface, right? We're just scratching the surface of what video and the vehicle could mean. Retail and wholesale platforms, ISIS, right? So the mobile wallet, how can we make things more efficient and better? Can we envision a world where your car just pays for the gasoline or whatever it is, right? The charging station or the parking by itself, right? Connected through mobile wallet. And then finally, as Harry mentioned, smart grid. So AT&T is a leader in the smart grid space. So we envision a world where the vehicle is talking to not just other vehicles through V2V, but V2X, right? So it's talking to buildings, it's talking to traffic lights, it's talking to the actual road itself. And so bringing this connectivity can make things much more safe, much more efficient, etc. So let me go in just a little bit to one before I go into the services. I do want to make sure, because there's always this concern that pops up, and so I do want to point out that as we look to deliver services to the vehicle, our number one priority at AT&T is to make sure that everything is done in a safe manner, we will do that through policy management in the vehicle. So certain things will be turned off when the vehicle is moving, etc. So we have those capabilities, and we're working with our partners like GM to develop those capabilities even further. We are doing an extraordinary amount of research with partners, university partners like Georgia Tech, and corporate partners and government agencies, etc. And then, we are also working with our auto partners, right? We have several auto partners. GM is one of those. And we're taking their feedback and working with them to make sure that we're developing services that are appropriate and useful. So some of the services that we think of it kind of in a twofold way, or at least two worlds. So you've got your safety, security, and diagnostic services. So currently you've got electric vehicle monitoring, which Gary spoke about, safety, security services, and problem alerts. In the near term, maybe 1 to 3 years out, we envision things like over-the-air updates. So think about recalls that some of the auto manufacturers have had recently that were software related. Well, AT&T has an OTA platform, an over-the-air platform that we can actually update vehicles while they're in the garage at night, not being used, etc., and in a safe way. And so that would be extraordinary value for both auto companies and consumers. Service schedulers, manuals, video tutorials that I mentioned earlier, predictive analytics, And then further out, crash avoidance like V2V and V2X. And then autonomous driving is approaching faster than what we thought it might. And so that's, probably going to be something in the, some of our partners wanted to come in about 5 years. We'll see if that's, if that happens or not. So, that's kind of the safety, security, diagnostics features, infotainment services that AT&T wants to deliver. Things like, content, internet radio, et cetera. We all know those. But as we reach autonomous driving, right, we could also expect to see kind of your living room migrate into the vehicle, right? And productivity increasing in the vehicle on your commute, et cetera, your commute being more enjoyable, things like that. So, but all of this to say, right, there's unintended ripple effects that we will see out of this, and we think there's a lot of really good things that can come from this innovation that companies and individuals can come up with to further the societal goals. So then, just to wrap up a little bit here, electric vehicles, it's kind of a hot topic right now. We have GM is one of our partners, Nissan, Tesla is also our partner, NW Power, all in the electric space. We know that hydrogen is on everyone's list these days as well. Toyota making a big push for that at CES this year. So, but how can connectivity kind of really bring about even more green technology? Cars are going to be lasting longer because they're made better, because manufacturers are getting better information off the vehicles, right? So more efficient use of fuel, even if it's through just the standard gasoline engine, right? Those are going to become more efficient through connectivity, and lower emissions through better traffic management, right? And so things are getting smarter and better and more efficient. Smart grid, is going to be absolutely necessary, connecting these vehicles to understand where's the charging station at, where's that hydrogen gas station at, right? So where are these things? And then one of the thoughts that was sparked earlier, Superior speaking, in our Digital Life product, we are making homes smarter now. One of our partners, a small partner in Texas, really innovative company, is now developing the ability to harvest excess energy from the home through temperature differentials, and they actually then can sell that energy back to the power grid, or they can charge their electric vehicle that's sitting in the garage. And so, and this is not like super futuristic, this is now, right? And so these things are happening. Connectivity is making this happen. So we're very excited about this space.
Thank you. A lot of comments there, like we said, just with the comments I had. Verizon Telematics is in the business of connecting vehicles. These are the cars and trucks that we're all driving. Spending time here in DC, the definition of connected vehicle varies amongst some folks. So let's just say it's a vehicle that can wirelessly communicate with a service provider. That may be short range or long range. We would prefer cellular because the vehicle's mobile, so you have to be able to move around on the network and just be able to make contact. There is the vehicle-to-vehicle community where vehicles communicate directly with each other, and that's kind of key for collision avoidance because you have some things going on there very much at one time. But to us, a connected vehicle is on the cellular network, so you have this ubiquitous coverage that lets you provide services. So we're offering connected services that are sold as subscriptions. So we have a license agreement for the user as they get the subscription, and then in exchange for products and services. There's data from the vehicle that's used models for connected vehicles on a large scale. Very few vehicles are connected at the moment. I think there's 250 million or 300 million vehicles in the U.S. Right now. We've got the OnStar legacy fleet, which is in the low millions, but it's very low penetration. For our customer base, out of Verizon Telematics, we're in the low millions ourselves, so there's really nowhere to go with that. And we do this presently in 3 different ways. One is partnerships with the auto OEMs. Presently, we have Mercedes-Benz, everybody's product. Volkswagen Connect, we're also working with Nissan, any other OEM that's interested in talking to us. We'll certainly talk to them. That's advertising on a global basis. The challenge with connecting cars and connecting the world with new car sales is the new car deployment rate, the sales rate. If we're selling 15 million new cars a year, there's 300 million out there. You can't do that. It turns over in 20 years. So we're going to do about that. So the aftermarket that comes with vehicles created since 1996 that have an open diagnostic or create an opportunity to connect the vehicle almost instantly. We're doing that aggressively with the insurance companies, primarily State Farm. The State Farm drive savings programs are talking with other insurance companies. That provides a kind of a ready vertical. The insurance company is interested in providing insurance discounts based on how you drive. And we're interested in providing telematics services. And so it's a perfect relationship. The insurance company only gets a limited amount of information. Again, these are subscriptions. These are all opt-in. The customer is purchasing a product or service. However, now the vehicle is connected. All of a sudden. This is just a box that shows up at your house and you walk out and go out and and we also connect commercial fleets. Network Fleet is a subsidiary. They've been doing that since 2000, maybe 1999, originally on a paging network, reflex paging network. So that business has changed. And for fleet, for commercial, you have this return on investment that's very, very important because the fleet manager is watching what's going on. The whole concept of privacy is very, very different in commercial. The person driving the vehicle is an employee, still using out their vehicle. The fleet manager wants to know if you're in the wrong place or idling the engine. About that later as well. So our main focus is connected services, safety and security. So think of that as crash notification, emergency services, dispatch of life-saving emergency services, roadside assistance. That involves some location information, so the tow truck or the ambulance knows where to go to find you. We can provide assistance in distracted driving. There's information, infotainment as well, navigation, insurance discounts, and then to go along with this are mobile apps and websites for the consumer to access the data. At the end of the day, this is the consumer's data. And they go online to access it and they'll look at vehicle performance or possibly where they went, if they purchase a package, give them that information, see how the vehicle is doing, etc. But now that the vehicle is connected, in addition to these customer-facing safety and security features, you now find yourself with some policy debate and policy opportunities, because now you've got this thing we call a probe in the industry floating around. So you have the opportunity for traffic probe. Network Fleet sells traffic probe data to that industry. It's depersonalized data. It's latitude, longitude, speed, time of day. You look on your phone app and you see the road is red. It's coming from traffic probe, coming from many, many sources. But this is just one source. We do not do that in the consumer space. We only do that in the commercial space. We mentioned you've heard OEM recalls discussed. We have the capability to download over the air to our OEM customers, and we just finished an over the air update for Mercedes-Benz. We did about 60,000 vehicles that got updated in the driveway. They didn't have to go back into the shop. That's really for a couple of reasons. It doesn't take time out of your day and bring the car back, and it also saves it's cheaper for the OEM to do that as well. service bay, not only wasting your time, but time of service bay. We were able to do that over the air. It's just one of the capabilities of the system. There are distracted driving solutions that we're starting to build into our products. Our preference would be to solve that through technology, but it's part of the policy debate going on. And that's because now the vehicle with Bluetooth technology, it can sense that your phone is there, and it can say flat, some type of simple phone app. We're presently doing this in the aftermarket with some third-party partners. The gas tax replacement, BMT, it'll be a while before the connected fleet can help with that, but obviously a connected device can figure out how far it drove in a day. It doesn't matter when it drove or where it drove. So very low far on privacy issues there. It certainly knows how far it drove. And at some point in time, when there are solutions for dealing with that, the connected vehicle fleet may be able to assist somehow. Finally, emissions and emissions testing, which we'll focus a little more on here, because I certainly believe connected cars are cleaner cars relative to what's going on with the check engine light and how people are treating their vehicles. Because with our fleet and the consumer, OEM, and commercial, right, we've collected a lot of data, so we understand how people are treating their vehicles or maybe not treating their vehicles. So over the 15 years of doing this, we've got a lot of metrics. I'll call it big data. I have to say big data and cloud in every presentation, or I can't cash my paycheck. So, I think Friday's payday. It is big data. I mean, there's so much data that's generated in this process, which creates other issues of storage and lifetime data. I'll not go into now. We have many billions of miles of vehicle data in this low set of figures of vehicles. The most important thing is taking that data and turning it into something actionable to benefit our consumers. Because if you can keep vehicles optimized, you can keep them clean and cheaper to operate. So vehicles are pretty smart, as was pointed out, but very smart actually, and they're testing themselves constantly for any emissions-related issues. When you get an emissions test, I presume most of the people who are going to get an emissions test, I know I do. Really, it's the vehicle doing the test, and the testers just reading that information out and says, you're okay. So a connected device can do that just as well, even on every trip, or periodically throughout the year, and that's something we're starting to do. Also, when you're running in a condition where the check engine light is on, sometimes there's no degradation depending on what's wrong, or it could be up to 10% or even more reduction of fuel economy for just on. So we're looking at that information and reporting it upstream in some of the products and services that we sell. But the tailpipe pollutants go up as well, so fuel economy goes down and tailpipe emissions go up. Consumers, it turns out, run in this condition a lot more than fleets do. Our commercial fleet customers, about 1% of the time, the check engine light will be on, will be in some type of questionable operating condition. For consumers, it's north of 10%. Probably a good chunk of the room has the check engine light on right now. And one state in the country, I won't say who it is, in this group, somebody maybe from there, is today 25% of the check engine lights are on. I find astounding. And we're partnering with EPA to provide them this data and some other analytics that we've collected. The EPA, they have a lot of visibility inside the non-attainment zones where emissions testing is done. They have no visibility as to behaviors outside non-attainment zones. They're extremely interested in data. And even some of the states, like Georgia, that do emissions testing in part of the state, are interested in Georgia and Oregon. There's a number of states that they're interested in what's going on outside the testing, just to make them smart. So there's something actually there. Commercial fleets, of course, have a very compelling value proposition to make sure their vehicles are running right, as well as the drivers are doing the right thing. punch is typical for a fleet driver when you install a connected device into a fleet vehicle. You find behaviors such as that, or people driving when they shouldn't, or moving the vehicle when they shouldn't. So it's labor cost, it's fuel cost, it's liability, it's all sorts of things that can be addressed in the commercial fleet. For consumers, the connected experience is it's not only safety and security, but also possibly lowering cost of ownership through the understanding of what might be wrong with the vehicle. We can tell you your carbon, matter of fact, our websites now, our consumer reporters will tell you your carbon footprint. If you have a flex fuel vehicle and you're burning ethanol, we'll tell you how much ethanol you're burning, or what's consumed, what the mix is of the fuel tank. If your battery's okay, battery alerts, leave a door light on or something, 3 hours later, I know this works because I left a few hours later, I get this text message. What's not? I just bought a new one from Walmart. I went out and lowered the whole light. I was blowing the lights on. So that's just interesting things that a connected vehicle can do. I certainly can tell you why your bill is on your check engine light. Working with third parties, and depending on what kind of vehicle you drive, we can estimate the repair. And then if you have a set of trusted service providers, be it Pepco's or some third party on your website, we can connect you with that, or just say, call these folks, or maybe in the future send them an email or a message as well, because now you're a qualified lead because you need some service on your vehicle. So it's really just kind of a tap on the shoulder, something's going on, we need to do something about it. The thing with vehicles that aren't functioning right, that are polluting, small problems become big problems. Your engine's misfiring, well, eventually you're going to ruin your catalytic converter. Because your catalytic converter goes along. You're smiling. Did you do that? Yeah, right. Catalytic converters are expensive, but they can't handle an unburned cylinder of fuel. So a misfire, which is that's a couple $100 fix. If you drive on that for 3 or 4 months, you got a $1,200 repair or worse. I will tell you. The other interesting thing, or another interesting thing, is the age of vehicles in the U.S. is north of 10 years. People are keeping them longer for a variety of reasons. The newer vehicles are extremely well made, and even 10 years ago, very well made. My 1999 Buick, I'm not giving that up at all. So if the entire country were to implement, fix their vehicles, clean them up, we'd probably save about 5% of the oil that we use based on our calculations. EVs are a natural fit as connected vehicles. We're running Volkswagen's EV program in Europe. We're launching an EV program in the U.S. as well with another OEM, I can't say. They're a natural fit because you've got mobile apps that are connecting to them, showing the state of the battery charge, where chargers are. We're able to turn the HVAC on to cool the vehicle prior to people coming back to the best feature of Volkswagen. And then you have mobile and embedded apps that are showing you around optimization to optimize your battery life. We've got some videos on YouTube. You can talk to me later and get you those, and there's some of our marketing videos for OEM connected, aftermarket connected, as well as network fleet consumer, commercial connected. And I certainly believe connected cars are favorite.
Well, thank you and good morning, and thanks for sharing some time with us. My name is Leo McCloskey from ITS America. I don't have any products to tell you about how successful they are, but I am going to ask for a quick involvement here from the audience. Show of hands, who came in this morning via mass transit? Not bad, that's about half. Who came in the car, was driving an EV or a clean diesel? All right then. There is the problem. So the challenge is that no matter how efficient the internal combustion becomes, it is insufficient by itself to reach our goals of cleaner transportation. And in some sense, my initial point is that's counterintuitive to who we are, because a lot of people in the audience here have to change their behaviors. I happen to have both an EV and a clean diesel, so maybe I'm a bonus for one of you. We can talk about that later. Maybe I'm the offset. But it is counterintuitive, and that's the point. You just made reference, Eric, to your 99 Buick, I think. You're never going to Yeah, there's a lot of people that don't want to park with their old cars. Those are the worst cars to keep on the road from a cleanliness perspective. But that, we have to get through it. That's why I say it's counterintuitive. That's the first point. The second point, though, is that transportation can be very clean. Very, very, very clean. But it takes, and here's my third point, it takes all in. We have to go all in from companies. Look at the range of companies that are up here. Square it, quadruple it. That's what's required from industry. It's an entire ecosystem of participants within the transportation sector that have to participate to get our emissions to the point where we can survive as humans. There's a great saying, let's all save the planet. I find that laughable. The planet will be here long after we as humans go. We can't go very high in the air. We can't go very deep. We can't sustain very great temperature variations. We don't like much wind. We need modest amounts of rain. We are incredibly temperamental, and we're going to be the ones that go, not the planet. The third point I'll leave with you is that the answer is not about just vehicles. It's multimodal, right? That means it's first and last mile. That means we have to coordinate shared transit and the shared rides. All of these solutions have to be components within the overall solution in order for us to achieve the goals that we want as a society. A lot of people talk about automation as being a desired end state. They talk about automation, and I think of it as the bright, shiny object in our current environment today. It's where everybody's focused right now. I need to point out, though, that if you look at what's going on in some of the services in market today, there is an automated service in a lot of cars today. It's called automated cruise control. And so that will adjust its position on the road based on what it sees in front of it. So it won't go too fast. It will stay just behind the car in front of it. That has emissions reductions in the order of 7 to 12%, which is great. However, there is cooperative adaptive cruise control. And cooperative adaptive cruise control means that you're talking to the cars around you and you're agreeing to go a certain speed. It's called platooning in a lot of cases. That has reductions of 20 to 40%. And so my point I'm trying to make is that automation by itself won't get us there. It requires cooperation, it requires communication, it requires a connected transportation environment, not just automated. And the last point, given we're running out of time here, that I'd like to leave you with, is that my background is mainly in the marketing space. I believe that messaging is one of the most important things that can go on. Certainly, when we look at something new that came around before, this thing called the internet, it took a company, I think, IBM, to do massive over-the-top advertising. Everybody streamlined in behind that, which created a message, a singular message that people can understand and digest. I think in this space, that's part of the problem. There is no single entity that has the most to gain or the most to lose. And so it requires cooperation. It requires cooperation of the vehicle fleet. It requires cooperation of the companies and the ecosystem involved in order to create the messaging so that we, as consumers of the transportation system, that we have an idea of what change is required, that we have competition that drives us to change, we have an incentive that drives us to change. And I think those issues become very important for us to achieve a highly clean, very efficient transportation system.
Thanks, Lou. Thanks, everybody, for your very good perspectives. We have about 15 minutes for discussion, so I'll take just the first shot. And Lou, you hinted at this a little bit, and I'm trying to get a sense of the scale of benefits that we're talking about in the connected car space. And it seems like you talk about kind of something a little different than maybe the other three panelists. So we have kind of like in first generation connected car technologies, starting to do things like over-the-air updates, 4G enabled cars, maybe vehicle to vehicle. But you're kind of thinking more along the lines that this will actually enable kind of the second generation of connected vehicles, electric vehicles that maybe get bigger benefits. I wonder if you can give a sense of the scale of both of those in terms of carbon reductions, cost reductions, things like that.
So from a carbon reduction, so from an emissions reduction perspective, whether it's carbon or nitrous or whatever it happens to be, there's no magic bullet, there's no single answer. So you need a whole range of technologies that GM is going to put into cars, that AT&T and Verizon have to provide services for those connected vehicles, that integrate the ecosystem, charging stations, fuel stations, weigh stations, that provide information to drivers. They know the least cost path to their end state. You know, the one thing that will change a lot of the transportation dynamics is destination. If the system knew the destination of you as drivers when you get on the road, it would be a lot easier to provide an efficient path to get you to the end state. If you think of transportation in any other phase, whether it's airlines or trains or anything else, they always give you the destination so they can schedule that route ahead of time. For some reason, for transportation, and I think it has to do with the fact that most navigation systems have always been awful inside vehicles. People don't like to use them, so they never enter the end location, destination. And I think if you put all of these things together, the scale becomes quite dramatic. We're looking at some data right now that shows that you can achieve dramatic reductions, but it doesn't, again, it's not just fuel type, it's not just autonomous capabilities inside the vehicle, it's not just connectivities, it's all of them. Because all of them have 15 to 20% reductions. So when you add them up, it becomes really quite dramatic, and therefore we can achieve the levels of reduction we want. But any singular approach, any kind of horse trading of one versus the other, it shortchanges the entire system.
Yeah, I just would echo that. I mean, it is a journey that we're on. And we're at a given point in time when we talk about the fact that it takes a long time for the car park to turn over. So something as mundane as tire sensors letting you know on your smartphone what your tire pressure is can have a tremendous, because of the scale of that, it can have a tremendous impact on the emissions. And so that seems fairly mundane when you want to talk about EVs and stuff, but EVs are coming and they're out there, but they're going to take a while to get out there in significant volumes to have impact. We know that the main hurdle, one of the biggest hurdle to somebody making the decision to purchase an EV car is range anxiety, and we know that somewhere north of 180-mile range, that anxiety lets up tremendously. And so, as we start to see battery technology get better, and we see, second, third gen EVs come out with 200-mile range, we're going to see more acceptance of that in the marketplace. And all these other technologies will pull that as well. So I think, as I said, we're at the beginning of the beginning. It's going to be really interesting to see how the journey goes. When I started telecom in 1983, we had 100 years of working on the landline telephone. We thought we'd gotten it pretty good, but we didn't have a clue that where we would be sitting now. So I'm very anxious to see where we'll be 30-something years from now.
Let me jump in one more thing, which is, you mentioned EVs, and I think you're spot on. You have EVs, hydrogen vehicles, etc. But, for example, you don't want a bunch of EVs in the Northeast. I mean, it's something we really don't want to do because it's mainly coal-fired power here. And so to charge the EV, you're looking at coal generation, which is a tremendously polluting source of fuel. And so there has to be a certain, I know I come from the Intelligent Transportation Society, there has to be a certain level of intelligence that we put over top of this, which is that we have to be smart about this. And so EVs ought to be targeted where you have distributed power, alternate power generation. I live in the Northwest, I live in the Seattle area, which is 85% hydro. Perfect place to have an electric vehicle. Again, having it in the Northeast is not such a great idea.
My name is Amitai. I'm with the Strategic Services Group at KPMG. And we're working on a third, it might be for now, examples in one industry, how to adapt to the recent changes in the power DNA. And the way we see it is that we have the old model of power that's becoming, its DNA is being increasingly infiltrated by new technology that make it smarter, give it more vision. And I guess what I'm really interested in is where this happens organizationally, both in terms of OEM like GM and the telecom companies. So where are your organization? Are you with engineering, just another system, another system like the powertrain and the brakes, or are you situated somewhere else in the org chart? And where do you bring in outside vendors like the telecoms or the high tech companies like Microsoft?
I'm probably not the greatest example because I sit in the public policy side of the organization here in Washington, D.C. But, you know, we work, the automobile industry has been supply chain dependent for a long time. It's been a long time since Henry Ford, you know, ran everything at the River Rouge plant. But we work very closely with our supply chain partners. That's a global endeavor. Supply chain is an incredibly important part of what OEMs do. Cars are literally, you know, thousands of parts that come together to make a vehicle what it is. So, you know, a lot of what an OEM does is simply manage supply chain. And that's very important, working with our partners to see what things they can bring to vehicles. We were talking about this, and one of the things I think that's really struck me coming from telecom is that the automobile development cycle and then life cycle is just an incredibly different animal from what I'm used to in telecom. A car development cycle is literally a 5 or 6 year period of time. And then those cars are going to be on the road, as we've heard, you know, 10, 11 plus years. So you're talking about an overall life cycle there of like 17 years. Some person has to make a decision on technology that can win, or, you know, in the marketplace for that period of time. So, you know, that is going to be a very important part of it. I think the interesting thing is that we are seeing new kinds of partners. We are seeing Verizon and AT&T coming together with our industry. But I think I would echo some thoughts at the risk of talking too long about that I heard down there. I mean, I think part of what this industry is really is a redefinition. We all have to think differently about what transportation is. You know, it's not getting in a 4-person sedan with an internal combustion engine. It's going to be about ride sharing. It's going to be about efficient use of mass transit. It's going to even, I mean, you can pump it out even further and say, you know, you can, the idea of drones to replace trips that people would be taking. So, you know, it's we're at the very beginning of a very interesting time.
If I understood the question, we're talking about how this development takes place.
Yeah,
How that is.
we're the organization that partner with
Yeah, we're Margaret with engineering, and with the OEM's tier ones, they have their tier ones that do all their stuff that they integrate in the car. And then my engineering team works with the tier ones. And typically how this technology is migrated to the entertainment center, you know, as we migrate to 4G and higher bandwidth, and there's that entertainment navigation component. It's really consuming more of the data. We still have the diagnostic information. I mean, we're tightly coupled with the OEM engineering as well as tier one.
I'd like to just echo that. I mean, we have alignment across all levels of our auto partners, right? So from engineering to marketing, you know, business development, policy, I mean, everything. There's always a alignment, right? There has to be, because we're moving away from just, you know, a pipe to the vehicle to more of a, you know, integrated services and ecosystem. So it's not easy, right? You've got two giant industries coming together that historically haven't really interacted much with each other. So it's got its growing pains, it's, you know, but we're getting there.
I'm actually worth on the Naval Postgraduate School. My father was Pioneer AT&T, joined Bell Labs when I was 2 years old. So I learned a lot of that. And I spent 13 years at IBM. I'm trying to understand with the software, if you have different software producers, and they're evolving at different times, and I keep wondering, don't you think they have sort of rules from the road? And how is that going to be managed? I mean, you know, we drive on the right side, the Brits drive on the left side. If we try to do our own way wherever we are together, it's crashes. So how are you thinking about, you
take a crack at it. So I think we're still figuring it out, right? You know, and I'd love to hear Harry's take on it as well. But you know, you have a lot of different players in this space, so each car company's different. Although there's an underlying player there that a lot of the car OEMs use today. It's common, but you've got Google coming in, right? That wants Android to be adopted. You have Apple coming in that wants iOS to be pervasive through the vehicle. You know, and what these companies are experiencing is this is different than a smartphone, right? This is, in some ways, it's like a smartphone, but it's in other ways it's not, right? And there's a whole set of safety issues that these companies, you know, are learning about. And, you know, you've got other software vendors out there that are more entrenched in the auto industry. And so a lot of different players, I think we're still figuring it out. But from our perspective, you know, we have to find a way to work together, all of them together. And I think there'll be some new layering technologies and schematics that will help these software companies and platforms work together more seamlessly.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you're right, it's traditionally, auto companies were very siloed enterprises. You had, you know, folks that worked on the drivetrain, and that's all they did. They didn't talk to the people that worked on the styling. But I think, you know, what we're seeing is that this is becoming a much more integrated enterprise, and, you know, it is a much different world that we're going into. If we're going to be able to realize the promise of these technologies, the OTA updates, you know, we have to be able to develop modules that can talk to each other and that can tell the vehicle how they're doing and what their state is and that kind of thing. And that has to be integrated and then presented to the driver or the owner in such a way that they understand it and know what to do with their vehicle. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it goes.
I just want to add something. I think cooperation is such an important thing here. It's not the way our society has been built. It's all about my job is to keep you. It'd be interesting if you started advertising, I'm quite serious, as a way to educate us about the skills that we're going to have to develop for this technology to really emerge. And you want to get that into the schools.
We also don't want to scare you away. And so I think one of the important points, though, is whether you use AT&T's or Verizon's service platform and network, they both run tremendous infrastructure, put a lot of money into it. Whether you use GM or Ford or Toyota, each company puts a lot of investment into the platform. However, within the core network of the vehicle, the control area network, it's 94% common to all vehicles. When you look at the service platforms from the different carriers, there's a lot of commonality across it. So software is probably the least is not the highest hurdle. It's probably the easiest one to get over. It just seems the hardest. And I think you're onto what the hard part is, though. It's cultural. That's the hard part that we have to do.
You need to educate the country.
Well, if we create a product that's too difficult to use, then this technologist will fail also. This can't be any more complicated than an ATM at the bank, which everybody knows how to use just by looking at it. So that's our.
Unfortunately, we only have 1 minute left, so I think what we'll do is, I think that's a good transition. The next panel is on, we're going to have a whole discussion on policy issues. Maybe each of the panels can leave us with your 1 or 2 top barriers to connected vehicles and intelligent transportation from your perspective.
I think we're talking a little bit about it, or right now where we are, we're so far at the beginning that nobody really knows where or how this is going to go. And so it's very easy for folks to be afraid of this technology and to be afraid of what it can do. I think that if we can get to the point where this is out there and people can see it, touch it, feel it, and understand it, I think the analogy to the smartphone is a great one, because When I was at AT&T and we were launching the iPhone, people did not have, you tried to describe it, people did not have a clue about it. And I remember Randall Stevenson would get up in front of people and say, I know this is going to change the world. I don't have a clue how it works or how it's going to change the world, but I know it is. And I think that's kind of where we are with this. And if we can keep the ability and the incentive to innovate out there, it will be incredible.
So, as speaking from the telecom perspective, a couple of things I think that are going to be important as we move forward in this space. One is, we are always faced with spectrum challenges, right? So there's an ever-growing need for more and more bandwidth, right? Everybody wants everything all the time, everywhere. And so spectrum is always a challenge, right? So, the allocation of those resources, et cetera, is always going to be very important to maintain connectivity. And the second thing that I think is very important is to tack on to what Harry was saying, to not be afraid of this new technology, right? So privacy is a big concern. AT&T is very concerned about maintaining the privacy of its customers, et cetera. And so it's important that we understand that we need to maintain that, but we shouldn't be paralyzed by fear of it either. So.
Yeah, I echo your comments and concerns on privacy. As we discussed on the panel, the benefits of connected vehicles are incremental, and there are many, many small benefits as you connect the vehicle. You only realize this as we connect and scale to really make this a meaningful benefit, meaningful reduction. Right now, the penetration rate is just in a low single-digit percentage. So saving 10%, fuel because you fix your check engine light only applies to a few 100,000 vehicles, and that's just a drop in the bucket. So as we need to scale this up quickly, and the networks can handle it.
I guess the final thought I'd leave would be that whether you believe climate change is sourced from human behavior or not, to me is irrelevant. It's a sideshow. Frankly, it's distracting. Because we are where we are for a whole series of reasons beyond our control. And the data is quite clear that climate change is occurring. And so if you're interested in your children and your grandchildren and so on down the line, we have to wrap ourselves around this subject one way or the other. And it's much better to do it when we can be a little more proactive than reactive. And so I would just encourage you, when you go away from here, when you're having dinner with your friends over the weekend, don't shy away from the subject, because it is something we need to talk about. It is something we need to figure out how to deal with.